Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Nickel City Mafia in Red, White, and Ruthless. I am your host, Brett McDurphy. Joining me is my co-host, Sean Kula of the Red, White, and Bills. We are going to have a jam-packed show tonight. We have a few bulletin points that we're going to talk about tonight. Number one, we're going to talk about the potential signings that the Bills will make with the $10 million that they have created with the release of Tre'Davious White. Following that up, we will talk about some of the coaching staff changes that we have seen over the last couple of days. And we will also add in our plan for and predictions for what the Bills defense will look like coming up with their starting offense come the September games that they will be playing. We do have the schedule update as well, where Buffalo will be playing and where they will be starting the year off, as well as games to watch that we feel like are ones that are games that we would like to attend, because we do love to attend games, number one. So we're going to try and see what games we're going to attend. And we'll talk about who has the easiest and hardest strength of schedule coming up in the NFL. We'll end the show by showing a video of Keon Coleman and Andre Reed interacting and meeting for the first time, which I feel like is a great interaction that we did see. We'll have all that and more today on the Red, White, and Ruthless. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize about that intro. The intro was cut short, and I do apologize about that. But joining me tonight is my co-host and brother from another mother, Mr. Sean Kula of the Red, White, and Bills. Sean, how you doing, buddy?
Good, my man. How are you?
Doing well. I apologize about last week, everyone. We did have a show that was planning on being scheduled, and I do apologize about it. We did have a little bit of a issue in my family. My dog got a little bit sick and ended up having to go to the emergency room. Luckily, she is okay. We do have the great news of that. We are back better than ever. My dog is healthy now. She ended up eating some plastic and getting it into her system, clogging her system a little bit, where she ended up choking and gave us a big scare. So that really scared us a lot. But we are back. We are going to do shows every Saturday night coming up throughout the rest of the off season. We will do the shows at 8:30 tonight. A little bit different. We do have a little bit of a birthday shout out that I have to make for my 4-year-old niece, Kinley Ann, who is celebrating her birthday today. She had a wonderful tea party with her family and everything, and we ended up spending some time with them, and it was fantastic, and just ended up being a little bit late. So I do apologize to the folks on the East Coast for a late night for our show. But Sean, talk to the viewers, man. I know you've been a little bit busy coming up and everything. You did your schedule review earlier in the week, doing that on Wednesday. If you haven't already checked out the show, please do so, because that was definitely one that we would love to talk about and everything, man. But, I will give my schedule update, and I'll give my predictions for what I believe the Bills will do later on in the show. But just give the viewers a little bit of a background of where you feel the Bills will end up at the end of the season.
Well, I had, before anything happens, before, other teams have injuries and our team has injuries, and, before we see a camp and preseason, I look at the schedule and I put it into account. We always lose the teams we shouldn't lose to. We always maybe beat a team we probably would, normally wouldn't beat. And, we have these stretches where things just aren't clicking. And that's not just the Ken Dorsey thing. It was Brian Dable. It was even Joe Brady. Because people do like to mention how we were 6-1 with Brady, but we were, a questionable offsides call away from losing to the Chiefs, and it took us to a last drive to beat the Chargers without Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler, and then we almost lost to the Patriots again. So, there's stretches where we're not at our A game. So looking at the tough schedule and considering we have new coaches all over the place, new pieces on our offense, a lot of unproven guys. you know, I think we're going to start off kind of struggling, and we might pick up near the end of the year. And I had us at 10-7. Had us at 10-7, and fighting for the division at 10-7 because the Dolphins and the Jets also have a pretty tough schedule. So as long as you take care of your division games and get 10 or 11 wins, we can fight for a division title, and that's where I see 10-7.
That's not a bad prediction. I think that we're going to be a little bit higher. I said 11-6 overall, so you will know where I predict it and everything. I won't go into game by game, but I believe 11-6 is where I feel. But I would love to know in the chat where everybody feels like the Bills will end up towards the end of the season, what your predictions are and everything, because it is very early on. The Bills do have a little bit of money that they can make up and coming up with the Tre'Davious White signing, or release, that they could move some money around and pick up some more players. So Sean, I wanted to start off the show by talking about Tre'Davious White and the $10 million that were created for the Buffalo Bills coming up. And we do have some draft picks that we do have to sign, but some of that money can be used and be flexible to bring in some guys as well. So I'd love to know from you, where do you see the Bills going with this $10 million? Do you think that they're not done adding to this roster, or do you think that they're at the end of the stages and they're going to spend it on some of the draft picks?
Personally, I think it's either between not using it or maybe bringing in a defensive back. Again, not too sure, but I'm leaning more towards they're just not going to do nothing with it. It makes you think that they have a plan because if they wanted Keon Coleman, they probably could have. They knew that the Panthers wanted Xavier Legette, so they could have got the fifth-year option with Coleman, but they apparently, according to Bean, that you save $3 million by drafting him in the 33rd overall pick. So it made it seem like you wanted to use it for something, or he's just being cheap and didn't want to pay the young guy more than he would have gotten in the first round. But yeah, I could see maybe getting a defensive back. I feel like I was thinking maybe edge rusher, but I think we brought a lot in already, and I'm not sure there's great edge rushers out there anyway. And then, like I said, maybe defensive back.
Yeah, I could see a couple of positions that the Bills could go after. One of them, particularly, I'm thinking about is the Bills have a relatively young running back room, and this is an area that I think that the Bills will need to get another veteran in there. They did go after a couple of guys in Frank Gore Jr. And as well as I'm drawing a blank on his name now, but there another guy that they did go after that's a younger back as well. We did re-sign Ty Johnson as well, and I just feel like that room is a little bit too young right now, and we could go after a couple of other guys that could spell a little bit of a backup to what Latavius Murray was last year, and Damian Harris being brought in as well. So I feel like maybe we could see like an Ezekiel Elliott type signing or something like that. I'm not saying Ezekiel Elliott because obviously he's signed with the Dallas Cowboys, but somewhere in that range of a player like that could spell and take a little bit of the carries away from James Cook so that the pressure isn't on him necessarily. And I do believe that the Bills are going to be a run-first team this upcoming season. I think that's kind of where we have targeted is and seen. Now, don't get me wrong, we do have JA-17 out there as well. We are going to probably be running the ball quite a bit more than we have in the past few years, and it's going to take a little bit of the pressure off of Josh Allen to be able to go out there throughout the whole entire game and put pressure on himself to get it done. And I'm glad of that because sometimes we put a little bit too much pressure on him. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, but at the same time, it's he's a top 3 quarterback, so he's not Daniel Jones or a quarterback that needs you know to take the pressure off of him. He's the top. He got paid like a top 3 when he got paid, and you know I think you could argue he's the second best quarterback in this league. So I, sorry, I got a cough. I personally don't want to be a run first team. I want to be able to run when we need to and do it efficiently and effectively. And I like to live around the 60 to 65% pass to the rest of it to be run. Which I think that's still a lot of running, but you know we might have to lean on the run a little bit. If we want to utilize supposed weapons we have efficiently, but at the same time, I don't want to be a down. And that's what it seemed like Joe Brady was doing. Like you said, it seemed like he was leaning towards the run. A lot of people, they don't want to admit that, because they think we're still going to be able to be a high flying passing offense, but run the ball a ton. But they don't want to acknowledge that Joe Brady basically took the ball out of Josh's hands the last 6 weeks. Besides the Eagles game, it really seemed like they didn't want Josh to turn the ball over, and you know, to me, it felt like they just didn't. He didn't really trust him, and I didn't really like that. But you know, people might think differently than that. But like I said, I say personally 65-35 pass run or 60-40 at the minimum. I think that's healthy. Like, you know, 30 to 40 passes and then like 15 to 20, 25 runs a game if we can get that. And I think that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. I mean, I feel like for me, I want to see the numbers be around 40, 60, 40% running, 60%
Yeah,
passing.
I'd be fine with that.
Sometimes 50-50 because it just depends on how the game is. If we see opportunities where guys like Curtis Samuel and Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and don't forget, we got we got Khalil Shakir out there as well. We can see this offense be electric out there in one-on-one coverage, but there's going to be games where they're going to be two good cornerbacks that are out there or two good safeties that we have that we're going up against that we have to decide whether we're going to be able to run the ball more. And I think that this is going to allow Buffalo to exploit different areas of the field by when we do see 8 men in the box, we will be able to go to man on the outside and be able to win the matchups as well with the 12 personnel. Or if we decide to go 4 wide, whatever the case may be, we can win those scenarios. But I really like those scenarios as well. And this offense is more balanced, in my opinion, than last year, because last year it seemed like the only 2 options that we really had were throw the ball to Diggs or run the ball with James Cook. Those were the 2 X factors for me throughout the whole entire year. And don't get me wrong, we do have Dalton Kincaid that has so much promise coming up, and he's just not at the level that I think his ceiling is going to be at. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's a bad player whatsoever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that his best football is ahead of him. So maybe it's this year coming up, and that's the scenario that we're at. But I think that we're going to see a different style of offense where we're going to spread the ball around quite a bit more, where we're going to see sprinkles of games where Curtis Samuel is the main focal point. We're going to see Keon Coleman be the main focal point. Khalil Shakir be the main focal point. James Cook in the running game, a few games where he'll be the main focal point. And then you'll see games where Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid, wherever the case may be, they'll be the focal point of those games. And it's going to be a more balanced offense because we're going to be able to win matchups, not just because of one guy out there, but it's going to be multiple guys that are going to win us games. And I love that style as well.
Yeah, for me, uh, the only thing I got to say about spreading the ball around is we could have been doing that already last year, but Josh Allen chooses who to throw the football to. Whether
Right.
no matter how plays are drawn up, everyone's job is to get open. So if he's throwing the ball to Diggs all the time, or he's throwing the ball to Kincaid all the time, and not throwing it to Shakir or Hardy or whoever's on the field or Knox, it's on Josh Allen. So we could throw the ball all over the place, but he's got to find the guy. He's got to throw him the football. He's got to throw a good pass to give him rack ability, because that's another part of the problem is even with Diggs, we've been one of the worst teams in yards after catch, and part of it's because how Josh Allen throws the football. he waits till the last possible second sometimes because
Yeah.
his arm's so strong that he knows, oh, I can fit that in there no matter what. I can wait and see if I can find something else, and then I'm just gonna fire it in here. So we don't have a lot of opportunity to get yards after catch with the way he throws. So all that stuff like yards after catch and spreading the ball around, that's all on him having to do it. He has to find he's the quarterback. He's got to find the open guy. So
Yeah.
because I see a lot of people because Diggs is gone, they're shitting on him and saying like, "Oh, he sucked ass anyway. We didn't need him." But if we kept him, the same people would be like, "Guys, can you imagine Diggs with Shakir and Kincaid and Coleman? Like, could you just imagine how
Yeah.
crazy the offense would be?" But we're just doing that. The fan base just does that to cope with him being gone, and we just ignore that him, even though he sucked at the end, him being on the field scared defenses, no matter how
Yeah.
bad he was at the end. But nobody on our offense at this point in time, until they prove it, scares anybody, any defensive coordinator or any defensive player. So it's up to Josh to get the ball to the open guy. It could, and I personally, if he favors guys like Shakir and Kincaid and not other people, I don't care. As long as he's getting to a guy that's getting the football, making plays, and getting open. The other thing too, I just want to comment on because I heard a lot of people talking about um, long sustained drives. That's how we're going to play this year. That's what we did last year. I like it, but then we got to remember, as much as Josh Allen has, you know, he's a touchdown machine, he also is prone to turn the football over. So if we have 10 to 15 play drives every single time we have the ball, that's just more opportunity for him to turn the football over. So I
Yeah.
prefer to be an explosive offense and then trust the defense because McDermott's a defensive guru, right? We're supposed to have a great defense, right? So why does McDermott try to protect his defense by always keeping them off the field and having the offense have long sustained drives and putting the offense in harm's way when he should be trusting his defense to make every stop? So I would prefer, obviously you can't go three play touchdowns every time, but I would prefer not to try to bleed clock because if you take a 10-minute drive and then you fumble the football or you throw a pick, you get no points. You wasted a whole quarter. And that was one possession. Now you got, now if they score, now you're playing catch up again. And then you got to change how you're playing. So I only want to play that way when we're sealing a game off. What are the
Right.
Colts? The Colts coach said, we're going to we're gonna throw to score and we're gonna run to win, or something like that. Meaning that we're gonna be a pass first offense, and then when we need to run the ball, run the clock out, and to control the game, to close it out, that's what we're gonna do. They're not gonna take 10-minute drives 8 to 10 minute drives. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, though.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, there it's going to be tough because it's going to be probably long sustained drives that we're going to see. It's going to be a different offense. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we will figure out. But hey, we'll see how this offense goes. We'll get into the offensive side of the ball later on. Probably in the next show where we'll talk about what we believe the starting offense will look like. But let's go ahead and talk about this defense. Like you said, we're talking about the defense that Sean McDermott has built for the last 7 years that he's been the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. This is year 8 that he's coming into, and let's see what Sean McDermott's going to build. But let's give it from Sean McDermott to Sean Kula and talk about the defense that the Bills will run. And let's talk about the 4-3 system that Buffalo is going to run and who you predict the starting offense will be. The starting defense will be. So let's talk about that. Sean, who do you believe will be the starting edge rushers come week 1 for the Buffalo Bills?
I think it's got to be AJ and Greg Rousseau. Um, Not saying that Vaughn can't be a good player again, but especially being 35. He needs to be in a limited snap role, and then we got to get guys like Solomon able to rotate a good amount because I've always been for letting young guys get the repetition and play, especially this year because it's not a throwaway year, but it's a year that we're still going to be competitive. But I could say as of right now, I don't think we're a Super Bowl roster. We're a good roster where we can compete. So why not get these young guys out there to get that experience, that valuable game experience, and then the next year we can go for that Super Bowl again because we got another year under the new offense, new defensive coordinator, and we can finish up some of the position groups that you know we gotta wrap up with getting them younger and better. But yeah, I'd say Greg Rousseau, he needs to step up too massively, and then AJ Epinesa will start, and then like I said, Vaughn and Solomon need to be the next two, and then we gotta get another young guy in there because I'd rather just keep Vaughn as like a pass rush, third down guy, and like don't even bother throwing him in there in the run. Have a younger athletic guy in there.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit because the Bills will have 5 guys more than likely that are going to be on the roster come week 1. More than likely that I believe that the 5 guys will be, and I want to know your opinion. I'm thinking AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, Von Miller, Javon Solomon, maybe even add in Smoot that we did pick up as well, or even Cameron Klein. Now, I do believe that Smoot is going to be the option for the Bills that we'll get. But, there's 5-6 guys that deserve a chance at the roster, and Cameron Klein has made a little bit of a name for himself in as being a backup player as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's interesting, Brett, because I remember Jake was high on him last year, but then he got hurt, and you know, Smoot is a good veteran, but not so productive recently, obviously because he had that injury. So maybe they might be like, okay, we can throw you on the practice squad. Nobody's going to get you, and we can keep a guy like Cameron Klein because I think we might keep 5 and 5, but I think the locks are going to be obviously Vaughn, Rousseau, Epinesa, and Solomon, and then
right,
maybe then it's going to be between Smoot and Klein and Tuhill to be that fifth guy.
right.
And with Vaughn being old, they might want to have a younger. You don't want to have Smoot in because I think he's like what 29. I want to say.
Smoot is 29, yes.
Yeah,
So,
so they might not want to have another older guy coming off of an injury.
right. So right
Again.
now, I do want to get to the roster real quick, and I do apologize for cutting you off, Sean. So right now, the base 4-3 defense that we do have, these are the projected starters that ESPN is following. And I do want to pull this up real quick because I think it's interesting to see for everybody. So I will share it as well. So what we are looking at for defensive ends is the roster is Greg Rousseau right now at starting defensive end, left defensive end. Then you do see as well Von Miller starting, AJ Epinesa, Dwayne Smoot as the backups, but you do see Casey Tuhill as well as the fifth option, as well as Javon Solomon and Cameron Klein and Kingsley Jonathan, who's been on the practice squad for the Buffalo Bills as well. So this is a solid 8 guys that could make the roster. I do think that Kingsley Jonathan and Cameron Klein are on the outside looking in right now, but come training camp, if they have a good training camp, they could move up the roster as well. And Javon Solomon, I'm going to say this right now, 5th round pick, not a guarantee to make the roster. Anything can happen. And if you have a good solid camp, you could get booted. And if you start to struggle during camp, you might be on your way out of a position on the roster as well. I'm not wishing that for him because he is a draft pick, but you never know what could happen. And you never know what happens with the Buffalo Bills as well. We've seen situations where Brandon Beane will move on from somebody and trade him for a draft pick. And that happens as well. So I think it'd be way too early to do, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. That could definitely happen. I think he'll be fine. And then I think it's, like I said, the 5th DN spot's going to be a good battle because any of them have a chance. And I don't think it'll come down to something like, can we put one of them on the practice squad without them getting picked up? And then that makes the decision of, but yeah, like you said, that's going to be an interesting camp battle. Again, I think our edge room isn't the best. Think it's still kind of weak, but it'll still be a good competition. And then, looking forward to that. Yes, those are my 2 starters. I got Epinesa and Rousseau.
So Russo and Epenesa would be for you. I would say, obviously, I'm going to go the same way as ESPN. I'm going to say Von Miller, Greg Russo starting off the year just because Von Miller, the name recognition. That's where I stand on it. But let's move on. I mean, I think this is pretty much obvious what we're going to see for defensive tackle room. Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but I'm the same with Jones. I think I'd rather, 2 years in a row with injury. He's old. I'd rather just have him as a backup, limited role. He was good coming out the gates the last 2 years, but then he gets hurt. So I'm not saying his play hasn't decreased, but I just think to savor him for the long season, why not? If Carter can have a good camp and they're confident that he earned that he could play and start, I would put him starting and then have have Daquan Jones rotate in off the bench and then maybe not play as much as he did last year before he got injured. So it's interesting, but I think he'll be the starter, of course.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think it's going to be obvious Daquan Jones had all over, and then sprinkle in Dwayne Carter as well. And Austin Johnson, I'm going to say this right now, a little bit of a sleeper on the roster, but I'm telling you right now, he's going to come in. And I think this is more of what the expectations were last year for Puna Ford. And I think that he's going to fill those expectations of what we saw for Puna Ford last year, and he's going to exceed them even more. So don't be surprised if we see a sprinkle later on in the season of Austin Johnson starting as well. But I think it's obvious it's going to be Daquan Jones at Oliver. So let's move on to the middle linebacker as well as linebacker room. Obviously, Terrell Bernard, I think, will be the starting middle linebacker for the Bills. The only other question mark, because the Bills do run a base nickel scheme, so we do see two linebackers typically. Now, I know it says a base 4-3 defense. That's a little bit different. The Bills run a little bit of a nickel-based defense where they do have another safety that comes in or a cornerback that comes in during the games as well. So you will see 5 defensive backs out there. So we're going to do this based off of 2 linebackers that the Bills will have out there on the field. I know the projection is Matt Milano, but we don't really know what the timeline is going to be for Matt Milano to be out there on the field. So, Sean, where do you think the Bills will go with to start the season? Do you think it's going to be Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard as the starting linebackers, or do you think that the Bills will have to wait a few weeks and maybe Matt Milano goes on the PUP list?
I'm not too sure yet. I haven't heard anything, so I'm just gonna say he's gonna play. So Milano and Bernard, but we could hear differently.
So for me, I think it's going to be Milano to start the year, but I think they're going to ease him in quite a bit. So I'm going to say Nick Morrow will be the starting linebacker opposite of Terrell Bernard to start the season. But I think that they will ease Matt Milano back into the league and everything, just
Yeah, I
because
would
he did
say
have.
Morrow too. If they come out and like I said, they've been quiet, so we don't really know shit. Like
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how he's progressing. You know what I mean? People are just saying
Exactly.
rumors. So, but I agree with you. If for some reason he needs more time, I think Nick Morrow. So that's a great pick, Brett.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying, Sean. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see. Now, this is the real position that I think is obvious. Obviously, we're going to see Rasul Douglas be the starting line or the starting cornerback. Forgive me, guys. But we could go in a different direction here where we could see Christian Benford, or the Bills could go after another cornerback later on. Now, I do think that Christian Benford is an excellent player, and he was coming along very well towards the end of the season, but injuries have happened the last couple of years, and that's been something that's worrisome for me as a Bills fan, to be honest with you. And I do think that this is an area that the Bills could go after another player, another veteran defensive back to just fill this room a little bit more. If you look at the overall depth, Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, we did lose Dane Jackson. Kaiir Elam, a little bit of a question mark right now. Taron Johnson has been playing well. Injuries have happened as well for him. And you add in Daquan Hardy, a little bit shorter of a player, and Jamarcus Ingram, who has no experience out there, as well as the fourth string players in Kyron Brown, as well as Kenny Lovely. I'm sorry. These players do not have any experience, so this is a very, I would say, veteran presence towards the beginning of the first two strings, and then no experience towards the end. So I feel like this is an area where the Bills will look for a veteran out there. They usually do it towards the end when training camp happens. We've seen it happen before where guys like Josh Norman come in or somebody like that comes in after the first round of cuts. But Sean, do you see the cornerback position staying the same for starters towards the first week of the season, or do you think that we could have somebody else be a starter?
Well, just to talk real quick, when you mentioned what you were just talking about, people are going to get cut from rosters too. So I think we could start. We'll probably might pick up a position or two from someone else's roster that maybe we were high on before in the draft or previous drafts, and then we could bring them in. So we might be doing something like that. But for corner, obviously Teron Johnson's going to start nickel. And that's why I don't think we'll get out of that defensive philosophy because we run that nickel defense mainly because of Teron Johnson, and if you stop running nickel, then Teron Johnson's not on the field, and he's the highest paid nickel corner in the league. So I think we'll always play majority nickel. But I think obviously we're still Douglas, but I think Kyrie Elam's gonna win the position this year. So it's going to be Douglas and Kyrie Elam.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to see. And we will get into a couple of reasons why, Sean, I believe that we're going to see a different side of Kyrie Elam as well. We'll do that in another show coming up. But one that we will get into in a little bit, some of the coaching changes that we have seen for the Bills roster coming up as well. We will get into that after we do finish up with the roster for the Bills and what we believe the starters will look like. But definitely there's a chance for Kyrie Elam to be a starter as well. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But Sean, I do want to wrap it up. Safeties as well for the Bills roster. This is an interesting position because the Bills do have Taylor Rapp, they signed to a 3-year contract. Cam Lewis, 2-year contract that they added in. Damar Hamlin on the last year of his contract. Now, the Bills did bring in Cole Bishop in the draft, and they do have a battle between him and Mike Edwards for the free safety position. And I think that this is going to be interesting because you have Mike Edwards, who last year started to flash towards the end of the year, in my opinion, and you add in Cole Bishop, who I believe is going to be a starter week 1, just like Nick Saban said. And he has a lot of expectations as well, high expectations for us. But this is an interesting battle to see, and I'm glad that the Bills did add some depth to this position as well. You add in Delaney, who we did sign later this week, and this room is looking pretty good, in my opinion, for depth as well. So, Sean, who do you think is going to be the starter come week 1 for the Buffalo Bills at the free safety position? And do you think this Taylor Rapp will have the starting safety position?
Yeah, I think it'll be Rapp and Cole Bishop, and then you got Edwards off the bench would be nice too. Again, if Cole is not that good in camp, don't just throw guys out there. But if they perform well, and you're like, oh, I don't know if he's better than Mike Edwards, I think they're the same. You got to throw them out there. You know what I mean? You got to throw the young guys always out there if you're thinking like they're equal or they might have a better potential. If they're just like, oh, wow, this guy's way worse than we thought he'd be, then don't play him, obviously. But if they're showing any promise whatsoever, just, you got to throw them out there. That's why I say Cole Bishop and Taylor Rapp. And because, we signed Taylor Rapp for 3 years, and then last year, he didn't really play well when he was in a limited role, but then when he actually got a lot of reps, he seemed to play better. So
yeah,
I don't really want him coming off the bench. I don't know if he's that type. He might just not be that type of player. So I want Taylor Rapp and then Cole Bishop.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent choice there, and I would agree with you there because I do think that Cole Bishop offers a lot more than Mike Edwards does. I think that he can match up very well against tight ends as well. He fits more of what Jordan Poyer was to the Buffalo Bills the first 6 seasons that he was with the team. He could cover tight ends, do whatever it took. But I think that Cole Bishop is going to blossom into a ball hawk for the Buffalo Bills. And I feel like Taylor Rapp is going to be excellent as well, filling in for Micah Hyde in the free safety role. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Bills will do there. But I think that this role is going to be perfect for both of them. And this is going to be fast paced. I mean, this is going to be a team that's going to be able to wrap up ball handlers very well and get into the run game as well with the safeties and tackling. You're going to see a lot better tackling as well. Two players that are going to come out there and make a difference for the Bills. And I think our run game is going to be on defense is going to be a lot better than it has been in the past few years. So, Sean, let's turn our direction from the starting offense and let's move on to some of the coaching changes that the Bills have made over the last couple of days that were announced. Now, this is coming back to yesterday that the Bills did announce 6 moves to the scouting department that they did sign. Matt Vizirgan has been named the director of college scouting. He had previously worked as the team's senior personnel executive. Azil Molba has been named the assistant director of pro scouting. He previously worked as a pro scout. Keith Jennings was named the area scout after previously working as the team's Blesto scout as well. Darius Vanette, who was previously spent the last 11 seasons with the Arizona Cardinals in their scouting department, has been named a area scout for the Buffalo Bills. RJ Webb, formerly a pro scout, will now be working as the college scouting staff and will serve as the team's Blesto scout, which I'm not really sure what that means, but we will figure out a little bit more on that. Vince McGree has been named a pro scout after previously serving as an assistant general manager of the CFL's Toronto Argonauts. So a lot of moves for the Buffalo Bills in the past couple of days. And, this is for the scouting department. But we do have more moves that have been made to the coaching staff. And I do want to get into this one here, Sean, and see what your thoughts are for this move. But John Perry has left his role with ESPN and moved to the Buffalo Bills. And he will be pretty much a liaison for the Buffalo Bills in terms of the replays for the Buffalo Bills and challenges for Sean McDermott. And Sean, I know you've been very critical on how the Bills have done with challenges over the past few years and Sean McDermott's inability to understand when to and when not to challenge. So I wanted your opinion on the John Perry signing for the Buffalo Bills, and what are your thoughts on this? And do you think that this is going to be a change that's going to happen throughout the NFL in the next few years in terms of, number one, we know that the replay has been so important over the last few years. It's only gotten bigger and bigger. And now we're seeing John Perry leave a position at ESPN to get back into the NFL.
Yeah, it could probably start happening more, but a lot of teams might already do something like this, but they just don't broadcast it. But yeah, it's a good move. McDermott sucks. He sucks at like you said, knowing when to challenge, and it just seems like he. I don't know. I heard he was like 10 for 33, which is horrible. So yeah, it'll definitely help because he'll probably only challenge when it's winnable. Because John Perry will be able to say, "Yeah, you got no shot at this one."
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. And you do have a comment coming out from Bills Fan CA saying hopefully they hired Mead as a scout. Guaranteed studs if he's scouting. Completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I do want to get to some of the comments real quick, Sean. We haven't really said anything to anybody in the chat, and I do apologize for that. We do
Well,
see
you
you
have
in
it.
here. We do see you in here, guys. We have Chris 716 coming in to start the show. Go Bills, obviously. He's talking about the Bandits as well. Go Bandits. They are, from what I hear, and I do want to get an update on the Bandits as well. 11-8 in the third quarter. If they win, they do get the championship. Game is on ESPN Plus, and you can subscribe to there. So that will be interesting. I do see you guys in the chat as well. Booby Olay coming in the chat as well. Some very interesting comments as well, saying the ceiling will be higher than what we expected as well. And his confidence is very high because of Bill's ability to run the ball and their improved offensive line. So I do see you, Booby Olay, in the chat. Obviously, Bills fan CA being in the chat as well. Appreciate all the comments from you as well. Trey Williams in the chat as well, saying that he believes that the Bills are going to pay for Emmanuel Ogbah.
I hope not.
Which would be interesting to see. John Robert always coming in the chat saying OTAs will start Monday the 20th, as well as Dwayne Carter needs to learn the playbook. Completely understand those comments as well. Also, don't forget, smash the like button for us, guys. Drop into the comments as well after the show. We always appreciate all the comments that we do get. We do have Jim Page coming into the chat. Thank you, Jim. Even though you are a Jets fan, who do you think is winning the division this year? That's an interesting topic. We don't want to say anything, but it'll be interesting to see. Monday Night Football will start coming up. First Monday Night Football game of the year will be the Jets returning to primetime for the second straight year on Monday Night Football, traveling all the way to San Francisco with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. Now, I don't want to jinx it again, everybody, obviously, but we know what happened last year on Monday Night Football. Obviously, I am kidding around a little bit, but, 2 years in a row would be a very bad coincidence for Aaron Rodgers. So, obviously, I'm giving Jim Page a little bit of hate here, but I'm playing around with him as well. So, it's interesting to see. So, Jim Page says they're losing that opener, but I do think that the division will be up for grabs. 3 teams in the Jets, Bills, and obviously the Dolphins to win it, but it's anybody's division. I mean, obviously we could see the New England Patriots come out of it and make a big difference, and we'll see what happens. So I don't want to say anything yet. We'll get into that later on as we go, but I do appreciate everybody for joining us in the chat as well. I just wanted you guys to know we do see you guys, and we appreciate you as well. So, Sean, I do want to get into a little bit of a topic that we were talking about earlier. In Kaiir Elam, we were talking about him and how he could make the roster as a starter for the team. And I do think that with the signing of John Perry and understanding the rule book and everything, I think that this will help Kaiir Elam to not have as many flags thrown on him for pass interference, as well as illegal contacts, stuff like that, as well as adding in a new cornerback coach for the Buffalo Bills. I think that that's going to be another area that the Bills will help him with, especially a guy that understands the needs of Kaiir Elam. So that'll be very helpful as well. And as well as having guys like number one in Bobby Babich, who will be calling the defense. Now, the Bills did lose John Butler, who's one of the better defensive backs coaches overall, but they did add in Jamil Ade, who is come from the University of Miami. He's more of a man-to-man type guy. So I feel like this is going to be helpful for Kaiir Elam this season. So we might see a different side of Kaiir in the next season. So would you think that the moves with number one John Perry as well as Jamil Ade will help him secure a roster spot as a starter?
I I don't even know if it's like that. I couldn't tell. I don't think him being physical should be a reason he's not a starter. I feel like it might just be a fan conversations that people bring up, like, oh, he's too handsy. Because I was talking to Mike maybe a week ago, and look at the best corners in the league: Sauce Gardner, Jalen Ramsey, Pastor Tan,
Yep.
man,
Trent
who is
McDuffie.
it? L'Jarius Sneed. They're all physical as hell, and they're the best corners in the league. What
Yeah.
we just like our fan base is making it seem like having a wide receiver one is a bad thing. They say the same thing about having a physical corner. Oh, he's too handsy. It's a bad thing. No, it's a good thing, because what did we complain about in that Bengals game that we got blown out in a home playoff game? Why is Trey White and why are we playing so far back? Why are we doing this? Because they can't play man, because they're not good at pressing, and they're not good at being physical. So instead of putting him on the bench and saying he's too handsy, we gotta enhance the handsiness and teach him how to take advantage of his ability to do that. Because that's what Sauce Gardner and all these guys do well, is they're physical and handsy, and they get away with it. And and that's a good skill to have. You know, I could sit here and say, Sauce gets away with holding all the time, because he does, but it's because he's so good at being able to do both. And instead of putting Kyrie on the bench and saying, hey man, you're too handsy, screw you. You get me a flag.
Yeah.
Everybody, if we bench people for flags, then we got to bench offensive linemen. We got to bench defensive linemen. How many times did Ed Oliver get a late hit call? Are we going to bench Ed Oliver because he had a flag on him? So I think it'll help, maybe, because I think Kyrie knows the rules. I think it'll help maybe McDermott understand. He could be handsy, but here's how. Because there's no doubt Kyrie's physical. He works hard. He cares. He wants to win. And when he's played, we can't sit here and say he's never done nothing. He's produced more than Benford has, and
Yeah.
not even playing half the amount of time.
Yeah.
Um, but how's he going to ever learn if he goes in, he makes a good play, you take him out, and then you put him back in 3 games later, he gets a flag call on him, and you take him out? Like, that's not how you teach people. You have to keep him playing. So it's more of just because I know he's earned playing time. So it's more
Yeah.
of the coaches. What are they going to do? But I think he'll work his ass off again this summer, and I think he's better than Benford. I've been thinking that, but he hasn't been starting, so everyone will say, "Oh, well, the coaches know more than you do." So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to wait and see. And it'll be interesting. I mean, Christian Benford's been playing good too. Don't get me wrong,
Oh
but
yeah, for sure, for sure.
we'll see what happens with the roster. I mean, it's camp battles always help, and they bring out the best in everybody. And obviously, we
Yeah,
want the better player to be out there on the field. So I think it's going to be Benford. Don't get me wrong, but I think that Kyrie Elam's going to challenge him a lot, and it's going to make our defensive back room even better.
yeah, I agree. And even if he doesn't start, he's the first one off the bench. So you
Yeah.
basically got, you know, boundary corners. You basically got 3 starters right now that are, that have significant playing time and have done well. Um, the only thing with both of our starters as of right now is, they both battle with injuries, and one of them is 31 years old. Um, and Douglas played extremely well last year before he got hurt. Um, so yeah, that's a position that might be a little bit concerned about. Thinking maybe we should have hit boundary corner in the draft.
Mhm.
Again, just because then you have one true backup for each one. But maybe they have a plan. Maybe they know someone's gonna get cut and they're gonna pick them up, or maybe they're gonna sign someone.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting to see. Now, I do want to get to an important topic that we need to talk about. Some of the additions that have happened for the Buffalo Bills over the last week or so. I don't know if you guys have gotten into some of these moves that have happened, but one of them I think involves the wide receiver room, and it's going to be interesting to see what really happens here. A $12 million a year wide receiver that was released by the Kansas City Chiefs has signed with the Buffalo Bills, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling has signed with the Buffalo Bills to add to the wide receiver room with Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakur, as well as Keon Coleman. In this move, I think it's going to help the Buffalo Bills quite a bit because he has come on a lot in the playoffs, and he has a lot of experience in the playoffs, number one, but he also has 2 Super Bowl rings with the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Sean, I mean, with all the touches that have been lost with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, both of them leaving this offseason, this is a move that I believe is going to help the team a lot, especially with the speed that he offers with a 4.37 40-yard dash. So, Sean, I want to talk about this wide receiver room just a little bit. I don't want to go into too much depth on this right now because we are at the 50-minute mark. But I want to talk about this wide receiver room and talk about the bodies that are in there. But I want to get into a couple of other roster moves before I do that. D. Delaney, safety, has been signed. He did play previously with the Tampa Bay Bucks, has been signed. And we did see Quintez Cephas depart the Buffalo Bills. He was one of the more controversial signings of the offseason, wide receiver that was signed from the Detroit Lions. He did have a season off due to being suspended due to gambling issues. So the Bills have made a couple of roster moves, as well as adding in a little bit of a sleeper, in my opinion, in Deion Jones, who previously played for the Atlanta Falcons, an outside linebacker / edge rusher that we did add that might fill into more of the Leonard Floyd move. But Sean, I want to start with each individual move. I want to talk about the wide receiver room a little bit shortly and talk about that wide receiver room and whether or not you feel like the Bills are going to keep 6 or 7 guys on the roster come week 1.
Well, they've been keeping 6 and starting and suiting up 5 for every game. So we'll see if they do it differently now with the new kickoff rule. Maybe they want to have an extra receiver
Right.
like a Claypool, just so they can put him on special teams and have him on the return or something. Because that might be good, to have a guy like him. So we'll
Right.
see. But 6 or 7 they'll keep depending on how they got to have their team. But I mean, I'm just gonna remind everybody the same stuff everybody's saying this year. Oh wow, this is the deepest we've ever had at receiver. We're underrated. We have all these great weapons. They've been saying this every single year, and just recently last year with guys like Deontay Hardy and Trent Sherfield. And you remember I've said it constantly, they're not that good. They're not
Yeah.
going to get plays drawn up for them. They're not going to be a huge impact. And everyone says, you're just a hater. You're so negative. They're going to be great. They never had a good quarterback like Josh Allen before. And what did they do? They did. Sherfield did worse with Josh Allen than he did with Tua. So we have to remember, yeah, Josh elevates people, but it's not going to work with everybody. So
Right.
just because we signed a bunch of guys that never had good quarterbacks or never produced at a different team doesn't mean they're going to come to Buffalo because Josh Allen's good and automatically become barn burner receivers. Like Curtis Samuel. Oh, he's never had a good quarterback, so he'll definitely have 1,000 yards and 80 catches. Look at guys like Garrett Wilson, who had the worst quarterback play in history and still puts up 1,000 yards. You don't need
Yeah.
to be a good receiver is a good receiver. Eric Moulds, always a good receiver in Buffalo. Lee Evans, you're always going to be good no matter who your quarterback is if you're a really good receiver. Now will Curtis Samuel maybe be more efficient and maybe have a little bit more yards, maybe a couple more touchdowns, maybe, but
Yeah.
we can't expect guys like MVS who had Aaron Rodgers, who's a absolute top 5 quarterback in history, and then Patrick Mahomes, where people are already saying he's the best quarterback to ever play football, and his most catches he had in the season, and even being a number 2 receiver, was 42 catches. So we
Mhm.
can't expect him to come here and put up 80 catches and 700 yards. Like it's
Right.
just not gonna. It's not realistic. He might put up 20 to 30 catches maybe for 300 or 400, but it's not going to be anything where you're just like, man, defenses are scared of us, man. Like MVS, he's just oof. Like how many? Me personally, MVS with Patrick Mahomes, I was like, let this guy catch, let him throw to this guy, and Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. and unfortunately, when it mattered most, he ended up killing us. But if I'm not scared of him with Mahomes, I'm not scared of him with anyone else. So yeah, he's a decent, he's got ability, but we got to remember we're a room full of unproven, inexperienced players. Keon Coleman hasn't played in the NFL yet. Khalil Shakir, great promise, but he had 37 catches last year. He's never been in that number two or a role where they have to rely on you heavily. We thought the same thing with Gabe Davis, especially me. After when Emmanuel Sanders left and he was a number three, I said, "Man, Gabe Davis has to step up as a number two next year. I think he can do it." And then what did he
Yeah.
do? He sucked. He sucked, and he didn't get any better, and then he wasn't able to handle the role. So just because we like Shakir and we think he's shown promise as a wide receiver four, while Stephon Diggs was on the field, we can't assume that he's going to automatically double or even more his production just because he's good. And then you got Samuel, who's decent, but was never 1,000-yard receiver. And then you got Claypool hasn't been good in 3 years. And then you got MVS, whose most catches were 42. So and then Andy Isabella and Tyrell Shavers and Justin Shorter. So if we're being unbiased as fans, we don't have a proven room. We have potent. We have we're built off hope and potential, and
Right.
that doesn't always get you where you want to go. So you could be
But
positive about this room, and I'm not judging people for being positive, but when I speak as a fan, especially as a creator, I just want people to know I'm speaking off of an unbiased, like I'm not a fan of the team, just because you know we all have different opinions. So if I'm saying like I think this, and then you say I think we have a better room than people think. That's what's great about conversation. I'm not really negative. I'm not hating on the team. I'm just seeing it as like I got to see it from both ends because we've
right.
seen we've seen what happens. We've seen Trent Sherfield and Hardy are going to eat with Josh Allen, and then they were absolutely horrible. Like we
Right.
just got to be prepared that um, it's not always going to be everything's going to work out. We have to expect some things not to work out, some players not to work out.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Sean. I do want to get to this comment real quick from Booby Ole saying that his high school wide receiver coach actually coached Curtis Samuel in high school, not the same high school that he went to. So he's been keeping up with him since then, and he's a great addition. He can do a lot more than he gets credited for,
Oh
and
yeah, no,
I completely agree. We're not. Sean isn't bashing Curtis Samuel
no, I'm
whatsoever.
saying he's good. I'm just saying he's not going to come to Buffalo all of a sudden and put up 1,400 yards and
Yeah.
15 touchdowns. Like he's going to be the same as player he's always been, and
So
that's just how he
Sean,
is.
let me ask you this, and this is something that I I love you to death, man. Nothing bad on you. You get a lot of a bad rap for this, and forgive me for saying it. You know, a lot of people think that you are unhappy with the team and everything else. You're a Bills fan just like me. You know, you want what's best for the team, obviously. That's correct. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's why I'm honest. It's because I
Yeah.
care about the team.
You're saying, pump the expectations on them. Don't overhype these guys because they still need to prove it. That's what you're saying. Is that correct?
Right. Because it's the same people that are saying I'm being negative and they're better than we're getting credit for that are going to say, oh, nobody's helping Josh Allen out. Why is Josh Allen got to do everything? Why is this person dropping the ball? Why can't this person get open? It's just going to be it's the same thing every year. And you know the same thing about Coleman. Everybody now is like, oh, he's going to be like the fifth option. Don't worry, he can get 400 yards and it's a good season. But then as soon as he doesn't do anything something good, oh man, why did we even pick this guy? It's just going to like it just happens every year. I can already see it.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying until they prove it, we got to let them prove it to us because that's as of right now. And I'm not trying to be funny saying this, but Chase Claypool has been the most productive receiver that's on our roster at this point in time. He's had the
So
most yards. He's had the most yards in a season. He's had the most touchdowns in a season. And he's had the most catches. And maybe Samuel has a couple more catches than he does. But as far as production goes at their peak, Claypool has had the most productive career out of all of our receivers. So we we have to let these guys show up, and show out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And this is a comment from Bobby Olay. I mean, I understand where he's coming from with this comment. Obviously, he's saying Sean's a little bit of a negative Nancy, obviously, out here, but he understands where he's coming from. Do I feel like I'm not going to comment on this because number one,
it's okay, but I've just been trying to explain to Mike and everyone I talk to is like we have to understand that being unbiased isn't being negative. If
right,
people take it negative, then then I apologize. But just saying like these guys got to prove something to us, that shouldn't be looked at as negative. It should be what everybody wants. Like we pay money for this team. We go support this team. We spend
right,
hours talking about this team. And if they go out there and they don't perform, we're the people that the product is trying to provide for. So if they're not putting out good product, we're the consumer. We gotta be satisfied. So
right.
all I'm saying is just they got a lot of potential in the room, but I can't sit here and say we're gonna go 13-4 or 12-5 and start off 6-0 until I see them in the new offense that Joe Brady is supposed to be making and producing in it and being able to do all these new wrinkles that everybody wants. And once they do that, I can't wait to give them the credit for it. But up until then, like, you gotta show me.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. I mean, listen, I've loved Sean. I'm going to defend my co-host, no matter what, till death. I'll defend Sean. What Sean's saying is exactly what Bills fans are. They are expecting to be, number one, hurt towards as the year goes on. There's games where we're frustrated as fans and everything. And Sean's expectations, are exactly what he feels as a real true Bills fan and everything. So I understand where he's coming from on it. And, obviously some people may not agree with what he's saying, but I mean, it's true. I mean, we do go through these stages where, we don't figure out things and everything. And, I think what Sean wants more than anything is what everybody else wants is a Super Bowl ring. To be able to go down to downtown Buffalo and celebrate as Bills fans, that's exactly what we all want. So,
I'm not even. Go ahead. Sorry, I was gonna say I'm not even like wanting people to agree with me. It's just like I want everybody's true feeling opinion, but just understand that I'm coming from an unbiased. I'm trying to be that kind of creator. I want to be able to say, both sides of the coin and have conversation about it. Because I'm not disagreeing with people that say we have a good wide receiver room. I'm just saying, isn't it just as possible that they have a lot to prove, or that they haven't done much in the NFL to deserve a bunch of recognition yet? And like Trey was saying, like Bean's been putting Josh and Bean and McDermott are putting them in Josh in that position where he has to be doing everything, and that's why like I don't like when people are saying, "Oh, we don't need a true number one." Yeah, like I don't need $5 million in my pocket, but I could use it. It'd be awesome if I had it. So yeah, Josh doesn't need a number one receiver to be good, but don't you think that him and Mahomes would want one? Like, don't you think Mahomes and Josh Allen would want Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or Tyreek Hill on their team?
Sure.
Oh, hell yeah, they would. But why keep that from him because he's good? Like that's just like when everyone's just saying, "Oh, we don't need Diggs." It's like, come on, like it only helps you if you have a bona fide guy like that.
No, it does. But let me say this though, Sean, and we're kind of at the point where we're getting a little bit off topic on certain things and everything.
Oh yeah, get back to the topic.
No, we're good. But I mean, I want to say this. Stephon Diggs, in my opinion, forced his way out of Buffalo. This is the second organization that he's forced himself out of.
Sure.
I'm moving on from the situation, obviously.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Stephon Diggs is the type of person that whatever happened in Buffalo, we don't know. There's only speculation. throughout it all. But second organization that he's pretty much forced himself out of, didn't want to be here. I'm glad he's not here because you know what? We don't need players like that don't want to be here. We're in this position where the players that we need and we want should represent the team and the culture that we're trying to create.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm okay with what Buffalo did. The situation, maybe Brandon Beane didn't have an option and he kind of, had to put all his guns into a basket and say, here, what can I get for Stephon Diggs at this time? And I think it was kind of so sudden and everything. And that's why we only got, what we got for Stephon Diggs. And I think it was a good timing to just move on. All the drama and everything else that was going on throughout the whole entire situation, all those subliminal messages on Twitter and everything, it feels so much better now that we went to the offseason and we're getting so much hype from Keon Coleman with the 78 and 89 jacket.
I feel bad for that kid.
There's going to be so much high expectations for him. But I'm glad that this team is so close-knit and everything. And it's just like us as Bills fans and everything. We're so close-knit. Close-knit. We can talk and everything. We can discuss everything. We should be able to have our ability to get into the discussions and everything and talk and be, just like one another. Just like Booby Olay said here, it's all love from my end.
Yeah, no, I know.
No, I'm just saying this and everything real quick. I want to say this, none of what we're saying and everything. Obviously, we love you guys, every single one of you guys that comes onto the show and talks and everything. But that's the way that Bills fans are. We talk about our team because we care so much, and that's why we do this show. Is because we care so much about the team. And we love talking about them. So, I do want to mention that. So, I mean, I want to get off of the Sean topic and everything and move on to a couple of other things too. So.
No, I funny story real quick before I mention like the Diggs, something about the Diggs stuff. I commented something similar to what I just said about we got a lot of guys that got a lot to prove. Someone said I was wrong and Samuel's going to have 14 touchdowns and Coleman's going to have 17 touchdowns, and I'm just like, Jesus, we gotta be realistic. Come on, but yeah, with Diggs, I always mention how Beane's not prepared, and I find it really hard to believe that his plan was let's get rid of our number 1 and 2 receiver in the same offseason. I really don't think that couldn't have been his plan. But then I start thinking maybe it was because his plan for replacing his center was get rid of both his centers and then put his elite left guard at center. So, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. But if Diggs could have just held on for that one more year, and because if we really think about it, trading him for a second round pick next year to me is it's like 4th round pick value, and next year he's probably worth a 4th round pick. So I would have kept him, drafted Coleman, and then that's really good. Diggs, Coleman, Shakir, basically everything we got now, but add Diggs into it, then you can see how Keon Coleman's going to be without having all this attention on him. Because one thing about Coleman is he's horrible against man coverage. What do you think most of the corners are going to do? They're going to single him with a man press corner on his side wherever he's at, and they're going to try to lock him up, even though he might not be the number 1 option on our team. But they're going to take that away from him. Jalen Ramsey twice a year, Sauce Gardner twice a year, Gonzalez from the Patriots twice a year. So that's 6 games of elite corner play already. So, you don't need a double Kincaid. He's good. He gets open, but he's not. You could put a nickel corner on him.
Right.
He doesn't have that Tyreek Hill speed where you're like, shit, I gotta do something. So if Coleman starts doing anything, I wouldn't be surprised if they start playing man on his side and then just shutting him down. And then what are you going to do? You got your big body receiver out there, but he might not be able to get open all the time. But like my friend Cameron said, he might be able to use that big body to force flags. being physical with the receiver, with the corners, is going to make them be extra physical, and you might be able to force some flags. But still, it's like it's gonna be very interesting. Um, but it would have been nice to have Diggs, because Diggs will still be Diggs. Then you got Kincaid still, and you can put Shakir and Coleman out there, and then Coleman will be like forgotten about, and then you'll be able to see how he is in the NFL, and then you can work on the shit in the offseason. And then when Diggs is gone, all right, Coleman, now you're stepping up. Because people aren't saying it now. They're thinking, oh, he's going to be a fifth option.
Right.
But once the season gets started, he's going to be looked at as, oh, he needs to start stepping up. And then, people are going to forget that they said, oh, he's going to be like the fifth option. He give him some time. And as soon as the season starts and he goes like, 3 games in a row with like 2 catches, and we lose or something, everyone's going to be like, oh, come on, like Coleman's got to do something. So, like I said, that's why I feel bad for him, because he has a lot of pressure, whether he or we think it or not. And hopefully, he keeps that positive attitude, and he's got confidence, and hopefully he just does what he can do.
That's
It'd be
true.
nice.
I agree with what you're saying, and I do want to get into an important topic. Obviously, we've heard a lot of hype from Keon Coleman throughout the whole entire draft process and everything, and I love what is happening with him. He has reached out to Hall of Famer Andre Reed with a lot of respect to him, and talked about how much Andre has meant to the Bills organization. And I feel like this is a good way to segue into the end of our show,
Sure.
showing a video of Bills Hall of Famer Andre Reed surprising Keon Coleman for his birthday at the rookie premiere with a very special welcome to Bills Mafia. So I'm going to pull up this video real quick. It's courtesy of NFLPA. So I will show this video. It is coming off of another website, obviously, but what we are showing is a video of Keon Coleman, and this is courtesy of Buffalo Rumblings. So I will pull up this video real quick, but it's pretty interesting. So let's watch this video real quick of Keon Coleman meeting Andre Reed for the first time.
I got it on sale. $79. What up, good to see you. Hey, you got that right? Hey, everybody told me they couldn't find it. We found it, eh? Hey. I said, here we go, them cookies again. I'm gonna eat them today, though. You got your face on? Like that? Oh, wait a minute, there's one more thing. This is my favorite one right here. This chain? It's got a wing on it. Fake wing? It's a fake wing, a buffalo wing. Shit. I put it on, I just keep it. Now he is part of Bill's Mafia. Right? I thought it was a Ricky Pay. It's a flat too. It's a flat. It's a flat. It's a flat. Bill's Mafia is in the building here in LA. My guy Keon had just met him. Cookies, $79.99 jackets. He's gonna tear it up this year. He's definitely gonna tear it up this year.
What a special moment, and that's courtesy of NFLPA as well as Buffalo Rumblings. What an awesome moment for Keon Coleman to meet a Bills legend and somebody that we have had on the Nickel City Mafia already. So talking to Andre Reed, which is so interesting and everything. And you see Andre Reed wearing the jacket that Keon Coleman was talking about and everything. I think it's so cool that he gets, number one, a necklace with a chicken wing on it and everything. And that's just awesome to see, as well as, his nickname Cookie Monster as well. I do want to finish up real quick and get into the comments. Trey Williams saying, you're right too, Brett. Diggs trade was good. Now it's time to develop the wide receiver corps. I just want your expectations to be tempered, because this way be a challenging season given so much change. And I do agree with what you're saying, as well as Bubiola saying that wing goes hard. Interesting comments here as well. So Sean, closing thoughts, man. I'd love to turn the floor over to you and just talk about, closing thoughts from you, and obviously, are there any expectations that you have or not expectations, but shows that you're going to come out with for your channel in Red, White, and Bills?
Probably soon we'll start doing stuff. OTAs will start soon and things like that. So maybe we'll have conversations, but for now, Saturdays on here always, and then maybe try to get a video out once in a while on Red, White, and Bills, but we will see.
Definitely, man. Listen, if you're new to our channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to Nickel City Mafia first and foremost. Myself on Go Bills podcast. We will have more shows coming out this week. We're going to do more player analysis on some of the new free agents that the Bills have signed, as well as the draft picks that the Bills have made, and just getting you guys familiar with some of the players that you don't really know of. And this is going to be something that I will be doing on my channel, and hopefully Sean and I can integrate it in and bring in different analysis from guys like Mike Fortin, as well as Jake Podger and Sean. I'd love to have everybody's input on that, but definitely something that you can keep your eyes on as well. And I'm going to try and do more shows one-on-one on Nickel City Mafia as well. So definitely hit that notification bell on Nickel City Mafia. Also click on over to our websites and our channels on YouTube, as well as you can find us both on Instagram, and I'm on tons of social media platforms, but you can definitely find us for the most of the ones that we go on our Instagram as well. So Sean, any closing thoughts that you do have, bud?
Oh, no, it's always good to be here, and we got like 112 days till the season starts, so there's going to be a lot that happens between now and then. So, be here for it all.
That is true, man. So one last thing that I do want to get into, we didn't mention a lot of the schedule and everything. I will get into that show later on.
Why don't you go ahead and run through real quick what your predictions are? You don't got to go you don't got to go in depth, but we already did all that. So why don't you just run through it real quick and say win, loss?
I'll go through it real quick. Let me pull it up real quick. So I'll share it right now because I always forget to share it. So let's go over the schedule. So the Bills do open up the season at home against the Arizona Cardinals. Can buy tickets, obviously, already for that game. I do think that the Bills are going to come out of that game with a win week 1 against the Cardinals at home. They will travel week 2 down to Miami, which is going to probably be my first game of the season that I will attend down at Hard Rock Stadium. This is much earlier in the season than past years for Bills and Miami game. It is Thursday night football game, so the first primetime game for the Buffalo Bills in this game. I think that this is going to be an interesting task. I do think that the Bills are going to lose this game, and the reason why is because I don't think that they're going to mesh well to start the season, and I think they're going to come off a little bit slower than people expect, but we will see what happens there. But I do think that this is going to be a loss for the Bills. The third game of the year, the Jacksonville Jaguars at home Monday Night Football game, first Monday Night Football game of the year for the Buffalo Bills. This is a game that Nickel City Mafia, Go Bills podcast, and Red, White, and Bills are going to target as our first game and the first official game that the 4 of us all go to. So we're going to try and make that happen this season, make it into a guys' weekend in Buffalo for the Monday Night Football game. And this is one that I go back and forth. Is this going to be the year that Trevor Lawrence is going to become the MVP style of Trevor Lawrence? And I think that this is going to be a tough game for the Buffalo Bills, but I do think that they're going to slide away in this game with a win in front of the home crowd in Highmark Stadium. It's going to be a tough one, though, but I think it's going to come down to a field goal to end the game. Week 4, traveling to Baltimore. This is a tough game on Sunday Night Football. A game where Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, don't forget that they have added Derrick Henry, and they have added to the wide receiver room for the Baltimore Ravens, and that defense is still legit. I think this is going to be a very tough game overall, but I do think that the Bills are going to squeak away from with a loss here. Tough game. Yeah, obviously, Justin Tucker, one of the best kickers in the league. I think it's going to come down to a couple of plays. But Buffalo is going to lose this game. It will be close, though, but obviously because I think Baltimore is going to struggle to start the year and be a little slower, but this is going to be a loss for the Bills. So the Bills will be at 2-2 at week 5 against the Houston Texans, traveling to Houston for this game and in NRG Stadium. This is the much anticipated Stephon Diggs versus the Buffalo Bills game. I think that the Bills are going to come away with a win here, and I'll explain why. Their defense is going to take out CJ Stroud in this game. They're going to be playing hard, physical defense, and their offense is going to be led by James Cook, who is going to come out of this game with his biggest game of the year, where he will have over 175 all-purpose yards in this game. So I believe that Houston's going to struggle in this game, leading to the Bills being 3-2, heading to the Jets in MetLife Stadium. This is a game that I go back and forth. The Jets have been a team that has, high expectations throughout the whole entire year, with the return of Aaron Rodgers, week 6, coming off of an Achilles and every injury and everything. I just don't trust the Jets right now. I'm sorry to say that. I don't trust the Jets. They have a lot of gelling that they're going to have to make happen, and I don't trust, obviously, their offense right now. And I think Nathaniel Hackett is not the best offensive coach. I think the Bills are going to win this game, and I think they've had their number on the Jets for a long time. So I see them squeaking away with a win here as well. So that'll put them at right now 4-2 for the season, heading to Tennessee, actually at home against Tennessee. So this game is one that, don't be surprised. This is one of those trap games that I think that the Bills could have. And I don't know if Sean would agree with me here by saying this, but I think it's a trap game. But I do think that the Bills are going to come away with a win here. Will Levis is going to play pretty good football, but I think the Bills are going to win this game for sure and put them at 5-2. Now the Bills will travel out west for the game against the Seattle Seahawks. This is a game where I feel like Geno Smith will be playing very well, and with DK Metcalf as well as Jackson Smith-Njigba and Tyler Lockett in this game, I think it's going to be tough with a three-headed tandem that they do have. So I think the Bills are going to lose this game against the Seattle Seahawks, putting them at 5-3 overall for the season. Then the Miami Dolphins travel up to Highmark Stadium. This is where I think the Bills are going to split the series between the Miami Dolphins, putting them at 6-3 for this game or for the season, taking over the lead at the in the division for the year. Week 10, traveling to Indianapolis against the Colts. Another win that I think that the Bills are going to have. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor are both great players. And what the Indianapolis Colts have done with their team has been incredible. Their offensive line is one of the best in the NFL every single year. But I think that the Bills' defense is going to show up and show out. This is the game where I think that we're going to see lots of sacks. Big difference is going to be Von Miller as well as A.J. Epinesa making a big impact in this game. This will be putting the Bills at 7-3 heading to the game against Kansas City. And this is where the top part of the year starts to happen for the Bills. But this is a game I think the Bills are going to lose against the Chiefs, putting them at 7-4 heading into the bye week. I just think that the Chiefs have had the Bills' number. And this is going to be the point where the Bills are going to start to find a new identity for their team. So this will put them at 7-4. Come the bye week, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce will have their number against the Buffalo Bills. Week 13 in Highmark Stadium against the 49ers. I don't think the Bills are going to win. I really don't. This will be where the Bills finish at 7-5 with a couple of losses in a row. But this is realistically what I see for the Bills is lost here. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, as well as Brandon Ayuk are going to dominate this game for the 49ers, putting the Bills at 7-5. Come week 14 against the Rams, I see the Bills winning this game. It's going to be a tough-fought game throughout the whole entire thing. Matthew Stafford will be an excellent player, but the Bills will be having a home game pretty much in SoFi Stadium. So I think that this is going to be a win here for the Bills. Week 15. Let's just see. I want to make sure I got it right. So we would be at 9-5 if I am correct at this scenario here. So week 15 against the Lions, I do think is going to be the last loss of the year for the Bills. Just the Lions have been playing very well. Dan Campbell has coached his team very well, and I think it's going to be a loss. So puts the Bills at 9-6 heading to the Patriots and Jets games at home. And I do apologize. I was at 8-6. So forgive me on that. 8-6 for the Bills. So the Jets at home, followed by the Patriots at home, followed by the Jets at home, and then the Patriots. I think it's where the Bills are going to have 3 straight games where they are going to win, going on a win streak with a new identity for the offense where they're going to be a play-action pass type offense and really put a difference into the game where you're going to see a lot of Keon Coleman making big plays. So 3 straight games where the Bills are going to go into the playoffs at 11-6, winning these games with a new offensive identity led by Keon Coleman and the Bills, putting them at 11-6 heading into the playoffs, and they are going to win the division by 1 game, to be honest with you. So that's where I see the Bills at. I think that they're going to have a chance to go even higher in the ceiling. It could be higher, but they have a tough schedule towards the end of the year. One of the harder strengths of the schedule, in my opinion. I think that this is going to be a tough year, but I wouldn't be surprised. 11-6, 12-5, somewhere in that range could be where the Bills are at. So, well, that is my prediction for the schedule, guys. I do want to say real quick to everybody out there watching, we do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on social media. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, as well as on our Discord channel. And you can also find Nickel City Mafia on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights with Mike Fortin and Jake Podger, as well as on Tuesday nights with the AFC East Summit. You'll find us again on our next show, Red, White, and Ruthless, at 8:30 p.m. Saturday nights. We will go live at that time from now on, and that is a promise to you guys. This has been Nickel City Mafia. We'll see you next time for another edition of the Red, White, and Ruthless. For Sean Kula and Brett McDurphy, go Bills.
Go Bills.